picture a bustling, chaotic street market. You know the kind, right? Like you've got the noise, the crowds, the stalls just absolutely packed with goods.
Yeah, lots of yelling, lots of moving parts.
Exactly. And right in the middle of it all is this street smart market trader. And they are, well, they're watching the flow of people. They're reading the energy, knowing exactly who is browsing, who is actually buying, and who is just trying to get out of the rain.
Right, they've got that sixth sense.
Yeah. Now, I want you to hold that really vivid image in your head, and then I want you to picture a designated safeguarding lead in a school. So the professional whose entire job is to protect children and, manage crisis interventions.
Those feel like two completely different universes.
Completely different. But that's the thing. What on earth could that highly trained safeguarding professional learn from a market trader?
It sounds a bit like the setup to a punchline, honestly. But the research we're unpacking today makes this really profound argument about human behavior that actually connects both of those worlds.
Which is wild to think about.
It is, because we usually think of safeguarding, like protecting vulnerable people, as this highly formal, rigid system. We envision closed-door meetings, crisis protocols, risk assessments.
Yeah, paperwork, lots of forms.
Exactly. But the argument in our source document is that genuine emotional safety isn't actually built in a crisis meeting. It's a continuous, everyday relational practice.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are going to explore how the secret to building deep relational trust is actually found in the subtle art of reading the crowd. Those tiny, seemingly insignificant everyday interactions.
Yeah, the stuff you usually don't even notice.
Right. And I want to say right up front to you listening, whether you work in education, whether you lead a corporate team, or honestly, if you just want to be a more trusted friend or parent, this deep dive is going to completely change how you view the power of your ordinary daily interactions.
The mechanisms of trust are just remarkably universal. I mean, the research uses the designated safeguarding lead, or DSL, as the focal point, but the psychology applies to really any leadership or caregiving role.
It's a paradigm shift, really.
It is. It's about fundamentally moving from a reactive mindset, where you just wait for a problem to announce itself, to a highly attentive, proactive mindset where you are reading the environment before a word is even spoken.
So let's start with that market trader and the art of the read. Because to understand how trust is built, we first have to understand how a situation is observed, right? Like, how does a trader even know who to sell to?
Right, they aren't just yelling at a brick wall.
Exactly. Experienced traders can read a crowd in seconds because they're noticing mood, energy, hesitation. They're picking up on confidence levels, group dynamics, the whole emotional atmosphere of the street.
And that is a highly active conscious cognitive process. They are constantly scanning for unspoken social cues. And the direct translation here for a professional is that safeguarding awareness depends on that exact same observational skill.
Just noticing the subtleties.
Yeah, you have to notice the subtle shifts, because a student rarely walks up and says, "Excuse me, I am currently experiencing a complex pastoral issue."
Right. They don't hand you a memo.
Exactly, meaning, an emotional, social, or home life crisis. The reality is much, much quieter than that.
Yeah, a concern becomes visible first in just small behavioral changes, like maybe it's a student becoming slightly more withdrawn than usual, or it's a sudden shift in who they sit with at lunch.
Or even just a change in their appetite.
Right. Or just an emotional flatness during a routine morning interaction that, usually brings a smile.
And if we take that a step further, it's not just about individuals either. The document points out this core insight. We have to look the macro level too. Professionals must read the emotional climate of a whole environment.
Oh, like the vibe of a room.
Yeah. Think about the tension in a boarding house on a Sunday night, or a collective exam stress rippling through a hallway. It could be mood shifts after a rumor spreads, or patterns of social exclusion in a specific peer group.
Because tension doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It spreads.
It spreads non-verbally. Humans are incredibly susceptible to social contagion. So a good trader feels the anxiety or the irritability of the crowd, and a good leader feels the emotional climate of their community by observing those, like microexpressions, posture changes, the way groups cluster together.
Okay, here's an analogy that comes to mind. It's like looking at a heart monitor.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Like, you can't spot the dangerous spike unless you spend enough time staring at the flat line to know exactly what normal looks like.
Yes, exactly.
If you aren't paying attention to the everyday baseline, the ordinary energy of that hallway or that specific student, You will completely miss the anomaly until it's, well, a full-blown emergency.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize what the research calls a strategic reframe. Safeguarding, and by extension, deep trust, is built through ordinary attentiveness rather than extraordinary intervention.
But we love the extraordinary intervention, don't we?
Oh, we place so much cultural value on the big dramatic rescue. But the professional truth is that you can't have the rescue without the baseline. The everyday observation is literally the mechanism that makes the rescue possible.
Okay, in theory, I love that. But I'm putting myself in the shoes of a teacher with 30 chaotic kids in a room. Or
Yeah.
like a manager with back-to-back Zoom calls all day.
It's a lot.
It is. They don't have time to perform deep emotional reads on 30 different people every single morning. I mean, how is this actually practical without burning the professional out?
And that's the primary friction point for most professionals, right? The key here is understanding that this isn't an additional task you add to a to-do list. It's a lens through which you operate.
Oh, okay, so it's happening in the background.
Exactly. The trader doesn't stop selling to study the crowd. The studying happens simultaneously with the selling. For a teacher or manager, it's about utilizing the transitions you already have, like the moment kids walk through the door or the first 2 minutes of a meeting.
So you are doing a deep psychoanalysis of every person.
No, not at all. You are simply scanning the heart monitor for a break in the pattern, who is unusually quiet, who's abnormally agitated. You're looking for the delta, the change from their baseline.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So building that baseline gets us in the door. It makes us a familiar face. But familiarity isn't exactly the same as safety, is it?
Definitely not.
Like, just because a student recognizes my face every morning doesn't mean my approach is actually making them feel seen. So how does the professional bridge the gap between being just present and being truly approachable?
Well, that gap is bridged by what the research calls the microtransactions of trust.
Microtransactions.
Yeah, in the marketplace, traders don't run up, scream a slogan in your face, and expect you to become a lifelong customer.
I'd probably run away if they did that.
Right. Trust develops through repetition. It develops through predictability. It is the result of hundreds of small exchanges over time. People return to a stall not just for the product, but for the feeling of being recognized.
Which completely applies to a school environment. Students don't suddenly decide out of nowhere, today is the day I will trust this adult with my trauma.
No, it never works like that.
Trust is built transaction by transaction via tiny daily moments. It's the specific tone of voice you use when you say good morning, or your consistent emotional availability over weeks and months.
And this leads to a vital professional truth that the document highlights. Students disclose to adults they experience as emotionally consistent, not simply those who are professionally senior.
Wow. Wait, say that again?
They disclose to adults who are emotionally consistent, not just those with a senior title. Because a title on a door means nothing to a nervous system that's looking for safety.
Okay, let's unpack this, though, because I can hear a school administrator or like a corporate HR rep right now saying, but we need formal protocols for legal liability.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like, we spend huge amounts of time and money on big safeguarding assemblies, formal awareness campaigns, and crisis protocols. We can measure an assembly. We can measure mandatory training modules, but we can't measure a warm greeting.
Right.
So how does a leadership team balance the messy, unquantifiable human element with the rigid requirements of institutional compliance? Are you saying those formal things don't work?
That tension is very real, and the research doesn't dismiss it at all. Assemblies, formal interventions, awareness campaigns, they are absolutely necessary.
Okay.
They provide the framework, the legal protection, and a shared language for a community. But they are insufficient on their own. They cannot replace relational foundations.
So they're just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A single dramatic awareness campaign is like a single dramatic sales pitch. It might get attention, but it doesn't create loyalty or actual safety.
I see. It's the difference between knowing the emergency exit exists and actually feeling safe enough to walk through it.
That is exactly it. The formal systems are the map, but the everyday emotional climate is the terrain. And the everyday climate determines if a person will actually utilize those formal systems to seek help.
Because if the culture is cold,
If the culture is cold, dismissive, or unpredictable, all the posters in the world won't make a vulnerable person open up. Strong safeguarding cultures are built through accumulated relational trust, not just high-profile compliance initiatives.
which brings us back to the moment of interaction. So we've read the room. We've put in the microtransactions to build the baseline. But when a moment of real interaction happens, how should it be delivered?
That's where adjusting the pitch comes in.
Right. Because a truly good trader doesn't use the exact same script for every single person who walks by. They adjust the pitch. They adapt their tone, their pace, their whole communication style depending on the specific moment and the relationship they have with that buyer.
They read the audience and calibrate. And safeguarding communication has to do the exact same thing. It must adapt to a student's age, their cultural background, their current emotional state, their developmental understanding.
You can't just talk to a 7-year-old the same way you talk to a 17-year-old.
Exactly. People engage differently depending on how emotionally safe and understood they feel. We all return to places and to people where we feel welcomed, known, and comfortable.
Yeah, where we feel seen.
Right. For students, this means finding adults who make them feel emotionally visible and who actively reduce judgment.
So to me, that implies that a one-size-fits-all safeguarding script is actually kind of dangerous.
It is.
Because if you are approaching every student with the exact same rigid mechanical language, you aren't demonstrating safety, you're demonstrating compliance. And compliance doesn't make anyone feel emotionally visible.
And the data backs that intuition up completely. The research calls for a definitive leadership shift regarding this.
Yeah.
Professionals really must avoid mechanical, identical conversations.
Like reading from a manual.
Yeah. When you use a rigid, formal script, a student's nervous system detects that you are trying to manage a liability rather than connect with a human. They don't hear, "I am safe." They hear, "I am reading terms and conditions to you."
And the adolescent brain, which is like hyper-tuned to authenticity and social hierarchy, will instantly shut down.
Oh, instantly.
They know when they're being managed.
They absolutely do. Emotional safety is not communicated through formal safeguarding jargon.
Mm.
It is communicated through warm relational presence, non-judgmental listening, and just everyday kindness.
Right?
If your communication isn't relationally responsive, it's going to fail no matter how perfectly you memorize the protocol.
It's the difference between talking at someone and talking with them. I mean, think of the adult in your life when you were a kid who just felt incredibly safe to be around. They didn't use clinical language with you.
No, never.
They just saw you. They adjusted their pitch to meet you where you were. But, and this is important, as brilliant as the market trader metaphor is at highlighting the mechanics of human interaction, we have to look at where this analogy breaks down.
Yes, we really do. Because treating vulnerable people like consumers in a marketplace has some very uncomfortable flaws.
Yeah, it feels a bit gross if you take it too far.
Exactly. And the research is careful to delineate this. Safeguarding relationships are absolutely not transactional. Students are not customers to be managed or sold to.
Right.
And most importantly, emotional trust must never become performative manipulation.
Right. Performative trust. Like pretending to care just to get a sale, or in this case, to extract a disclosure from a student.
Yeah.
That would completely shatter a pastoral environment.
It would destroy it.
As we said, kids have an incredible radar for inauthenticity. If they sense you are deploying a tactic just to get information out of them, the trust evaporates immediately.
Because the end goal is fundamentally different. Market traders build commercial relationships for financial gain. Educational leaders and safeguarding professionals are building human-centered relationships for pastoral care and protection.
The stakes are completely different.
Right. The trader reads crowd behavior to make a sale. The professional reads emotional dynamics to create safety.
So it's about taking the skill set of the trader, the acute observation, the adaptability, the patience for those microtransactions, and applying it to a human-centered goal.
And this leads to the ultimate system-level question for any leadership team. In your setting, are safeguarding relationships being built continuously through small, everyday interactions, or are they only activated when something goes wrong?
Oh, wow. That fundamentally shifts where the burden of responsibility lies.
It really does.
It's not just on the student to speak up. It's on the adult to build an environment where speaking up feels possible. Are we only turning the system on when the fire alarm rings?
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, looking at the developmental pathways for a strong pastoral system, it starts with foundational work. It's creating belonging and identity so students feel noticed and known long before there is an issue.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. Then it moves to building social and relational capacity through that everyday emotional connection. The goal of a true relational safeguarding culture is preventative. It's about establishing the safety net long before serious concerns ever emerge.
Because if you wait until the crisis to start trying to build trust, you are way, way too late. The student is already in free fall, and you're essentially a stranger asking them to hand over their deepest fears.
It just doesn't work.
No, trust is rarely built in a dramatic moment of panic. It grows slowly through recognition, consistency, familiarity, and just small repeated moments of connection.
Well, and there is one final reflection from the research that builds on everything we've discussed about emotional consistency.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
We've established that humans only disclose to people they experience as emotionally consistent. This means we have to confront the invisible danger of the inconsistent adult.
Wait, let's explore that. What exactly makes the inconsistent adult so dangerous if they aren't actively doing anything wrong? Like, no formal violations.
Think about an adult who never commits a formal safeguarding violation, right? But their mood is entirely unpredictable.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They are incredibly warm and engaging one day, but dismissive, irritable, and snappy the next. According to the psychological mechanisms we've just unpacked, that inconsistency is actively degrading the entire emotional atmosphere.
Because the nervous system is always seeking predictability.
Precisely. That adult is projecting an unreliable baseline. A student doesn't know which version of the adult they are going to get on any given day, so their nervous system decides it is safer not to engage at all.
Better safe than sorry.
Right. That adult might be destroying the emotional safety of the environment without ever realizing it, simply because they aren't managing their own emotional leather.
Man, that's a tough mirror to look into as a leader or a caregiver. You don't have to be actively harmful to degrade trust. You just have to be unpredictable.
It's a heavy realization.
It really makes you realize how heavy the responsibility of those tiny daily interactions actually is. We started by asking what a safeguarding professional could learn from a market trader. And the answer is the mechanics of human connection.
The everyday stuff.
Yeah. Genuine trust is the deliberate accumulation of small, predictable interactions. Whether you are standing at a market stall, leading a corporate team, or walking down a school corridor, people show up and they open up where they feel seen, known, and safe. You have to put in the reps.
And you have to pay attention to the baseline.
So, to you listening, we'll leave you with this provocative thought to mull over regarding your own environment. Think back to that heart monitor metaphor. Are your daily interactions projecting a reliable, safe, emotional baseline to the people around you? Are you managing your own emotional weather, or are you the one causing the flat line to spike? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.